What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Making Podcasts Great Again. I am your tech stuff guy, Jay Nog, and this is a very special episode. Of course, we have the President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald J. Trump. But, Mr. President, I'm sorry. I am
No,
very excited.
excuse me. Like you never come with this sort of enthusiasm.
I know I'm excited for our guest tonight.
Excuse me. Every
Yeah.
episode is special. Okay, you don't see Hussein Obama. He does his fake podcast with Springsteen. That's about it. Sleepy Joe doesn't know what a podcast is. So,
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. How has your week been going?
pretty good. We're trying out some Diet Pepsi. It's pretty disgusting, but we can't use these Coca-Cola products. They're totally anti-American. So, but other than that, golf, OAN, the usual, strong presidenting.
Well, we're going to get to the whole Coca-Cola thing in a little bit, but we have a special guest tonight, Mr. President. I think you're going to be a big fan. He is a 3-time Emmy winner. You might have seen him on The West Wing, Transparent, Handmaid's Tale, in the movie Get Out.
John Voight? I don't think he was in those.
No. Please welcome Bradley Whitford to the show, Mr. President.
Oh, Bradley. I always thought it was White Ford, and I was excited, but it's Whitford. Okay. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Dick, President.
He meant Mr. President.
Yeah.
No, there's Zoom is run by China, so there's interference with the audio. It's okay. They don't like what I'm saying. I can tell you that. They love Sleepy Joe.
Can I tell you a true story? My first day, I went to acting school in New York. And I went to the 3rd floor of the Juilliard building for the first time.
Oh, well, look. Oh, excuse me.
Just shut up. And I get this is basically my first day in New York, and I hear these older actors, guys in the upper years, swearing, "God damn it, motherfucker," kicking lockers. And it was because they'd spent the summer working for this absolute douchebag of a developer.
Fred Trump, a total jerk.
And you had refused to pay them and said, what are you going to do? Sue me? So on behalf of them, I just want to say, are we allowed to swear here? Fuck you.
Okay, well, once again, we have a bad connection due to China Zoom. What I will tell you is I remember these so-called actors, and I told them, I said, here's a good acting lesson. Pretend you were just paid. Okay, so take that Meisner technique.
It's brilliant, Dick. Sir.
Trump School of Acting. We're going to start branding that down in Florida.
Mr. President, I have a question for you. You've spent your life branding your name, and I've read recently that you are rebranding yourself as the 45th. Can you please tell us more about this? Because a whole life spent, stakes as Donald Trump, buildings as Trump, everything, Trump, and now you're going the 45th at such an old age, people forget about you.
No, that's what we're doing is, as you know, both of you know, I was the 45th president, the last legitimately elected president in American history. And there's a beverage, okay, that is very popular that I don't support. That's called Cult 45. And I thought we have to make 45 great again, okay, because you have African Americans drinking sort of a beverage, and I don't think it's a good branding so I'm making myself the new definitive 45. Okay, so I'm the 45th. So when people go into a liquor store, they might say, "Oh, that's is that the Trump beer?" And they'll say no, and then they'll go, "Oh, well, then we don't like it."
So you think everyone, instead of saying, "Can I get a Colt 45 now?" they're going to say, "Let me get a Trump"?
No, they might actually. We're going to start selling Trump malt liquor. Okay, that's why Lil Wayne and Ice Cube are coming on board to help push this. So, because I think Billy D. Cup Williams is, sort of past his prime. So we need to get new branding. And by the way, you know who we have here, okay? Because my assistant just told me. Hello, Bradley. We're back.
Hi.
Now you are somebody with we looked on IMDb, this website IMDb, and it sort of lists.
Do you mean it's IMDb? You don't say you don't try to make it a word. It's initials.
No, I'm the 45th. I am the 45th. So I'm talking about the website, and you have this impressive credits. But I looked, and it's sort of interesting when I look at it because you play this radical left person working for Bartlett, okay, who wasn't even a real president, by the way, but you were working for Bartlett doing radical left things. Then you go to Transparent, okay, another radical left show. And then all of a sudden, I found it very interesting. Right after I got elected president and made America great again, you did a very powerful film, a very interesting film called Get Out. And I thought, wow, it's true. Anybody can change in this country. He had this radical left history, and then I get elected, and then all of a sudden, you were sort of somebody that I admired. And when I watched that film, and I saw the horrible ending, because your daughter in the movie was dating an African American, and it ended horribly for you. And I watched it with Ivanka. We have movie night. And I said to her, do you see why now? Do you see why I always said, maybe skip the African Americans? So I thank you for that film. I thought it showed a very important lesson. And it showed that people can change. You didn't have to remain a radical left person your whole life.
We actually shot that before you were elected. And I remember we were shooting in outside of Mobile, Alabama.
Great Trump state.
And it was the first time I saw non-ironic Trump hats in the crew.
There were people working on the movie who were Trump supporters. That's very wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's why you could tell. That's why it was a very pro-Trump message, as you said.
It was because when you get to the end of that movie, you just say, lesson learned, Ivanka. That's why I didn't like Jared Kushner, but he's a lot better than some of the options.
How long have they been married? When did they get together? Did you put them together? Did you put a weak man with your daughter that you have the creepy relationship with on purpose?
The Jewish art school that you went to in New York taught you very well, because I did that because now Ivanka sees Jared. He doesn't work out. He's just sort of walks around tall and weak. And I think she's finally starting to see that she should want somebody more confident, more powerful, maybe a little older, more experienced. So yes, that was sort of the intention, and it seems to be working very well.
How much of the Ritalin are you snorting these days?
No, we've come up with we've invented a new technique called freebase. And so we're getting a much better sort of kick.
You should find a way to charge for that and call it trumping.
Okay, you know what? You've worked, this is why it's good to bring in people who've worked for the other side. You worked for the radical left Bartlett. And now I think, this is if the acting doesn't work out, I don't know how it's going for you, but if it doesn't work out,
not great.
There could be a place for you in the Trump organization.
Yeah, it's a good it's a good idea. I think you should hop on that.
What position would he have in your organization?
I mean, sort of a marketing new ideas kind of guy, sort of,
You don't think race relations because of his role in Get Out?
We usually like to find So that, you know who I would use for that, because you want to sort of put an African American in that position. I would use the guy, one of the people in the movie that was sort of hypnotized. I would use them. You know, like Ben Carson was kind of, you know, we called Ben around the White House, we called him Sunken Place. So, you know, he actually, you know, it was kind of funny. I used to look at Ben in meetings and go, "Are you ever going to come out of the sunken place? You look like you're permanently asleep." So we would all stir tea around him. It was, you know, a little humor in the White House. And he would wake up and go, "Ooh." So it was, you know, just some good fun with good old Uncle Ben, we called him.
Oh God. Oh God. I stole one of those teacups. I have one here. You want to see it?
Can we sell it on eBay? I would like to see it. Yes, please.
I think it's
Mr. President, you want to sell his prop on eBay?
You don't think that would score? That would score a lot of money.
It would. How much do you think that would score?
Well, what about a video of me with the teacup? How about that?
I was thinking this is just another marketing idea, but I know you're not going to have a library, but for the Trump presidential gift shop, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you should have tea. You African American tea.
Yes.
Is an event you could have.
And then, you know, and then they could spill it. You know, the spilling of the tea. I hear them say that a lot. But no, I think if you would maybe do an ad for us for the gift shop where you go, "If I could have voted for Trump a third time, I would have." I think that would be a beautiful ad.
Would you ever dream of doing that ad?
I don't. Problem with that is I don't think I'm a good enough actor to pull that one off.
Well, you know, that's why
you never won any Emmys, did you?
I was robbed of several Emmys. You know, but no, they didn't. I simply had the number one show. That's all I had. You know, they decided not to give me the Emmys. Like, you know, some Emmys are for participation trophies, basically. That's where we are in the culture. And when you're dominating so strongly, they say, "Well, it's okay, sir. You have the number one show. You don't need Emmys, sir." You know, but I was in Home Alone too. So there's that.
Yeah, you crushed it.
That's a claim to fame right there, Mr. President.
Probably the best sequel ever. Some say Godfather 2. I say Home Alone 2.
Better than Terminator 2 also?
You know, I would say yes, although that's probably third.
How about Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise?
Colin Powell in Paradise. I thought he was good. Revenge of the Nerds was good. I didn't like that the nerds would win. I thought that was very unrealistic.
You would consider yourself more as a guy in the jock fraternity, Mr. President, than part of the nerds?
Well, you wouldn't think I was in that. I'm like the blonde guy. Remember the blonde guy who sort of led the cool kids?
Yeah, but he was an athlete. You don't come off as an athlete. You come off more as like a businessman.
You want to arm wrestle? I'll show you an athlete.
Well, you come off more as a businessman, and wouldn't the business guy be more in the nerd fraternity than the athlete fraternity?
No, you're thinking in the sort of Silicon Valley, nasty big tech sort of nerds. I come from the world of business where you shake hands, you go to strip clubs, you cheat on your wife, and you make great deals. That's not nerd culture. Okay, maybe today you go to Facebook and you see that robot walking around going, algorithms. But no, I come from a stronger sort of business.
Okay. So you would be in the jock fraternity, but the businessman in the jock fraternity. Okay. Well, I don't see that, but it's fine.
Yeah, I really don't want to see any movie that you might be in. It's been really great not to see your face for so long. This is kind of...
And that's why Dinesh D'Souza will never call your agent.
He's a visionary.
I mean, they call him the Orson Welles of 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. So he is a talent, one of our greats.
Mr. President, would you ever think about making another TV show? And maybe not a reality show. Maybe you would actually, you're very talented, like star as, I don't know, maybe a bounty hunter, or star as, who knows, a lawyer. I don't know. Would you do another TV show?
I would do sort of a, Liam Neeson, the show Taken, or the movies Taken.
Yeah.
So I would do Taken, but instead of somebody kidnapping my daughter because I would protect her, it'll be called Taken, and it'll be about the stolen election, and we'll go on a campaign of revenge. I think that could be good.
Taken, the stolen election. Well, not many people think it's stolen anymore. That's the whole thing. All the court cases are done, and the only people holding on to the whole stolen thing are the extreme right.
Well, I think that Bradley could concur that there was once a time where people thought the Earth, the sun revolved around the Earth. And people said, you're crazy. How can the Earth go around the sun? It's obviously the other way around. And then we learned that, in fact, the Earth goes around the moon. And people thought that was crazy, but then we learned it's true. So sometimes it's called being a visionary tech stuff guy, and you're obviously not.
Is that where you lost the $420 million that your racist father gave to you?
The great Fred Trump was not racist. He was prejudiced, and that's a very big difference. He gave me little increments of money, and he asked me to invest them. Usually he had bad investment ideas. It was because of my genius that I was able to build this into a great empire. But we miss the great Fred Trump. We know he's up in heaven with Sir Jeffrey Epstein looking down on us with great admiration. Maybe not on you, but on me. But yes, that's our sponsor. And that reminds me, Bet Online, they'd be good to do what I did with the, have you seen this story that the fake New York Times is doing about, Donald Trump was tricking his supporters into clicking for more donations?
Well,
clearly
yes, continue. I'm sorry.
No, I just think this is what the fake news does. We raise so much money, and all of a sudden, because some of these old people and people who don't know the internet were like, oh, I click on this and I accidentally gave him $5,000, and we refunded it. We refunded it because what we did was, it's very simple. Once Sleepy Joe was given the stolen election, we started raising money to fight that. And then we just took some of that money and paid off the refunds. No harm, no foul. That's what it's called.
Well, I need to hear what you have to say about some of these things. You said before you had a money bomb going on where you wouldn't really tell anyone. It's in small print, but that was a double contribution. And then also you were taking money out, reoccurring donations that was in small print that people couldn't see. There was a retiree who I read about who donated $1,000 to you and ended up losing $9,000 to you. People were losing their life.
Time to get unretired, I guess.
That's not the point I'm making.
And the Trump economy, unlike the Sleepy Joe economy, we would be able to provide jobs for this person to pay back their debt.
But you stole his money. There's no debt. It's you stole his money.
No, that's not what happened.
Also, what else did you do here? There was a box to check for weekly donations, and people didn't know what they were checking because there were so many things written there, and they just thought they were just going to get emails or something, and people just kept donating money to you without even donating. You just kept taking money out of people's pockets. Because the refunds in 2020, Biden 21 million, Trump 122 million.
I win again.
But that's not a good side to be on for winning right there. You stole people's money and had to give it back. You don't even, you show no heart, no sympathy about it. You just don't care. Is there a soul somewhere deep inside there? in between Diet Coke and McDonald's or something? I don't know.
You're being very aggressive. I think this feels like the negative influence of Bradley Whitford, to be honest.
No, it's just all these facts came out, and just be honest about it. That you stole people's
that's
money.
impossible. Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, somebody on my side. I cannot come out and say things that aren't true. I didn't steal anybody's money. They support their president. I don't run this company that did this, and we've talked to them, and I told them, don't do this. And I think they're going to change their ways the way Putin did when I told them that. So, no, I think there's, everything's okay, except
You don't
for the
think you
fact
tricked
that
people?
I don't run the site. I go out there and I ran the country and did a great job.
But you're a man when you put your name on something, right? You want it to stand for you. Now, do you want you to represent stealing money from retired people in our country?
No, I didn't steal. And we gave back. If they made a mistake, we were nice. We didn't have to give it back to them, but we said, okay, you made a mistake. You're now homeless, probably live in Nancy Pelosi's district. So we will give you some money back.
Is there any way you could give all 4 years of your presidency back?
How do you capture a shooting star? How do you describe a sunrise or a sunset? You have to experience them. I can't recapture that. I'm sorry.
Well,
I would like to, can I ask a question? I was just wondering if, can you explain what, a lot of people are confused about what Republicans stand for. What are they for? What policy solutions do Republicans have? Because as you said, it's your party. So what solutions do you have aside from not letting Black people vote?
We let some vote. So that's been called progress. And what I would say is we are pro-growth, pro-Second Amendment, pro-faith, pro-flag, pro-military, pro-PISA, and, just all the great things about our country. We're anti-cancel culture. We're anti-radical, anti-American things. So it's a very positive agenda that we have. Very strong, positive, pro-America, pro-gun, pro-faith agenda.
So no solutions for economic issues.
You obviously didn't hear me. We are pro-growth. So that's, pro-growing the economy.
Did he answer your question, Bradley?
Yeah, he sure did.
The radical left, they talk big talk on Twitter, but when they sit down with Trump, all of a sudden they realize they're out of their league.
I'm totally intimidated.
Now, Mr. President, it was brought up here. Are you a fan of baseball? You never really talk about baseball. Are you a fan?
I was a great baseball player in high school.
I heard you were awful.
You heard incorrectly, probably from many of your artsy friends at the Jewish Art School in New York.
What position did you play, Mr. President?
Power hitter and strong
catcher,
glove catching. We did strong glove work and also very powerful hitting. So, very Babe Ruth. People said I was very similar to Babe Ruth, except a lot better looking and a lot more fit.
I'm hearing some noise. Is that your chlamydia medical warning bracelet? Is that what that is?
Oh no, I think Mesopotamia, my soon-to-be ex-wife, just arrived.
Is she on 4 legs?
She wears these very sexy stiletto heels, and she sort of moves very quickly.
How is the marriage now? Are you guys like really reconnecting? And
Well, there's our month. There's I don't know if you know. We have. We believe in the law and honoring contracts. So we have our monthly stipulated prenuptial consummation appointment in 2 days. So,
Mhm.
she hasn't. I got to be careful saying this word because the left. She hasn't reneged on the contract. So things are going well. She knows that her days are numbered, I think. So we're looking into maybe doing a speaking tour of SEC schools, and finding a nice fourth Mrs. Trump. But malaria's doing as well as can be expected.
Mr. President, it brings me to the All-Star game was supposed to be in Atlanta this year, and it was canceled. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there was a great player for the Atlanta Braves called Hank Aaron, also known as Henry Aaron. Not a lot of people know that.
I think I say John Rocker.
But he was, John Rocker is obviously, probably the greatest Atlanta Brave, but we respect what Hank Aaron did as well. And I think Hank Aaron would be so upset to find out that baseball is moving, the All-Star game, where they would honor him, by the way, they would honor him because he recently passed away. And he would be so upset to know that over just a simple little thing like voting rights, that we were moving it to another city. I think if Hank Aaron were here today, he would say, "This is a disgrace, sir." And I would say, "Thank you for calling me sir." And he would say, "We got to get it back to Atlanta or else I don't want to be honored at all by this team." And I want to honor Hank Aaron's wishes in my imagination.
So all this is just made up in your head of what you
It's
think.
total.
Hank
It's
Aaron
total
would want.
cancel culture. This is total cancel culture.
By taking the voting rights away from people, and really
I
these laws
think-
are kind of made so black people can't vote. I mean, it doesn't seem very fair.
Look, we want all legal votes to count. We're very clear on that. I think even our radical left actor friend would agree that I want all legal votes. I just want to simply make getting a legal vote a lot tougher.
You're outlawing Sunday voting. There's no on the lines in these neighborhoods where a lot of black people vote. They aren't staffed enough, so there's long lines, and then people have to hand out water and snacks. And you outlawed handing out any water or snacks.
Well, I didn't. Georgia did, and I just simply support it.
And now Republicans are boycotting Coke.
Not Don Jr., I can tell you that.
And then Coca-Cola.
I thought you were all about deregulation.
No, people misunderstood. I'm for double deregulation, which is what I called it when I took Ivanka for her 17th birthday. We took her to, the surgeon, and we said, "Happy birthday, honey." And that's so I'm not going to get mad at you. That's a mistake a lot of people make.
So you don't think anything's wrong with what Atlanta did and put these laws into effect for?
No, I think they should have done it a year ago, and I think then we'd be looking at a very different country.
So you think they did it a year ago, you would still be president? I mean, president in the White House, not
in the
President
White House.
Mar-a-Lago.
We wouldn't have radical Raphael Warnock and jerky John Ossoff being radical left people in the Senate.
You know what was interesting that was such a contrast was women were really attracted to him.
To me? Oh, to who?
To the junior senator from Georgia.
Well, he has that. You ever hear him speak? It's such a practice. He's like, "Oh, it's a very like smooth jazz kind of voice," and I think it's a total fake.
So he's just turning it on for everyone.
I think he is. I think he's trying to be some sort of smooth operator, but he's no Sade.
Mr. President,
Who,
what do
by
you
the
think?
way,
Yeah,
once performed at Trump Tower. That's the only reason I know who that is.
this boycott on Coca-Cola, not Coke, the drug, but Coca-Cola. You are known to be a huge fan of Diet Coke. So you are going to put down your Diet Coke. I think you drink like 10 Diet Cokes a day or something like that.
Usually 10 to 12, sort of a standard amount.
So what are you going to do now?
We're in talks with RC Cola. We're thinking about taking over RC Cola and just making it Trump Cola. I think that would do very well.
Right, because you like Diet Coke. You need the taste of Diet Coke. Diet Pepsi does not taste like Diet Coke. Pepsi and Coke, totally different tastes.
Totally different. In the 80s, they had me take the taste. Remember the famous taste test?
Mm-hmm. Coke Pepsi Challenge or whatever it
I
was
took
called.
it 148 times, and I passed every single time. They said nobody had ever done that before.
You're a genius.
Thank you.
So 100,
We always win over these radical left people once they come on the show and they realize they've been lied to by the fake news, that actually I'm a very nice guy, a very talented guy, and very fair.
148 times you guessed Diet Coke correct?
No, sometimes it was Pepsi and I would spit it in their face.
That's one way to deal with it. Mr. President, what do you think about your boy Matt Gaetz?
Who?
Republican, representing Florida, very pro-Trump. You have to know who he is. For some reason, when someone gets in trouble, you just forget. It's like you have amnesia. You just forget these people.
No, there's, when I hear Gates, I think Pearly Gates, which makes me think of the great Sir Jeffrey Epstein. But you're saying Matt Gaetz.
Yes.
Matt Gaetz.
If he
I may have, there's
charged,
a chance. Okay. Before
Okay.
the fake news and the radical left people on this podcast get upset, I may have very well met this person. Okay. I meet so many people. You take photos, you meet people, you get tweets. So I'm not going to deny, maybe I've met the person, maybe we've talked, maybe different things, but no, there's never been, no, I don't know, Matt. I don't know Matt Gaetz. I'm not going to deny. There might be pictures. There's a lot of pictures out there of me with many great people and many not so great. But no, Matt Gaetz, it doesn't ring a bell.
He seems like a disciple of yours. He has Trump written all over it because he likes escorts. He is charged with sex trafficking. He has bragged to people. He used to play a game. If you slept with any of the aides or interns, you would get points for that.
And you'd get more points if they were virgins, right? Remember that?
I don't know about the virgin part, but
Okay.
those are your rules. I don't know. He would show people nudes at work, and
I remember those. I remember those very strongly.
Okay, and he at 38, he was dating a 17-year-old. I mean, that is pro-Trump all the way right there.
Okay, well, can we go off the podcast record for this one?
1 second. Let me, so no one hears this. Okay, we're off the record now.
Matt Gaetz is like the Kobe to Jeff Epstein's Michael Jordan. Okay, it was like I was seeing the next generation of incredible Florida talent. And but I've talked to my lawyers, and they've said just sort of play it cool with Matt Gaetz. So off the podcast record, we love Matt Gaetz, super talented. We're going to fight for him behind the scenes, but on the record, there's going to be no acknowledgement. So we'll go back on the record.
Can we just stay off the record for one more second?
No, we can't.
Okay.
You're very brave, sir.
Yes. So you don't know who this guy is.
No, and I think even radical left, Bradley Whitlock will say that Matlock. That's who we're talking to. And he will admit that I don't know Matt Gaetz.
Bradley, what do you think of Matt Gaetz?
He's good people, salt of the earth. Um, yeah, God, what a nightmare. He appears to be done, right? I sort of stopped following it, but he's in some very serious trouble.
Yeah, he is gonna probably go away or at least be out of politics and everything and out of the spotlight forever, I think.
Yeah, well, this is a question I have for the president. If the ex horrible president,
Obama, Mr. Whitford would like to speak to you. No, sorry, Obama's not
no,
here.
but it's very
He's with Bruce Springsteen.
It's interesting. Like if I have to do an interview, like a showbiz interview, if I were to start and let's say we were doing it by Zoom, and if I was talking to a journalist and said, "Okay, are you recording? Good. This is what your readers need to know about me. I am phenomenally rich. I am extraordinarily rich, and the reason I'm so rich is I am the greatest actor on the planet. I don't know if you saw my work in Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, but I'm a genius." If I said that, my career would instantly, justifiably be over. How do you, Mr. President, get away with that? How do you get away with all that you have done with underage women while Matt Gaetz, well, I know you feel like Epstein got canceled, or he canceled himself.
Total disgrace. Well, he definitely, I can assure you.
How do you get away? How do you get away with it? What is it? What's your magic?
It's called branding. And now, if you had started with the Trump swagger way back when, people would just expect it of you. It's, oh, there's Bradley Whitford. Here he comes talking about his money and his talent. But you took the radical left view, which is, oh, I'm going to be nice and I'm going to be respectful. And so then people expect that of you. But with me, I set the expectations so both high and low at the same time that I can do whatever I want. And Matt Gaetz, whoever he is, doesn't have that level. He hasn't established that powerful brand that I have. And when it comes, I deny any activities with underage women. I've denied that strongly because, as you know, when it's your daughter and she's hot enough, there's a different, I believe under the law, there's a different standard. So, Ivanka doesn't count. And I've only, said nice things about her.
I do feel like Matt Gaetz is, I don't know whether you want to be on the record or off the record about this, but I do, whether or not you know him at all, even if there's a lot of documentation that you were very close. And I think you were close with Nestor as well.
Well, Mike Pence had a thing for Nestor, that I can tell you. He called him the Cuban cigar. That's what he called him. So, I don't know.
But I feel like Gaetz is using your playbook. Deny in your face.
It's, if he's an admirer of mine, I respect that. But, the only person, I will say this, the only person, and Angry Andrew in New York is trying to do it, and I don't think it's going to work for him. The only guy who it really worked for was Governor Blackface in Virginia. He just sort of said, "I'm sorry, and I'm going to stay." And then they let him stay. So
what's interesting is, this is sort of serious for a moment, but everybody always says the conventional wisdom is if you're hit with a political scandal, you need to cop to it right away, right? That's sort of the conventional wisdom. I don't think that's true. And in a bipartisan way, when I found out, when I heard about the Monica Lewinsky thing, I thought, oh my God, you need to go. And Clinton very successfully got us used to the idea that
you meant Clinton needed to go? I thought you meant Monica, get the hell out of here.
No, Clinton.
Okay. Well, just asking clarification.
And yeah, you're a great example of how on the other side of the you're the morally bankrupt version of Bill Clinton,
but not financially, and that's what really counts.
But it certainly works for you.
Here's why I will respect Bill Clinton. In this day and age, if you get a scandal, we get so much information. Social media, it's called social media. There's so much information. Social with a SHOSHIAL.
Yeah.
There's so much information going around that nobody can keep up. So it's a scandal for 2 days, and then 2 days later, there's 8 other stories trying to get on top. Bill Clinton managed to fight off the Lewinsky thing when he was the only story anywhere for a long time. So I do, even though I don't like him or his crooked wife, I respect it. But for me, it was a no-brainer because I knew there would be another scandal because I was working on more scandals. It was more like like you're running on a treadmill at the gym. I don't, but someone who cares about that stuff might. And you just keep moving because the next thing's coming and they can't keep up. So if you're creating scandal after scandal, they go, oh, he stole from, he did this to this one. Oh, there's Russia, Ukraine. And instead it's just 2 days, and you keep moving. So my advice to any, talented politician coming up is when all else fails, create a new scandal. Like if I were Matt Gaetz, Matt Gaetz should go hit somebody with a car right now. And then people will go, Matt Gaetz hit someone with a car. He's got to be held accountable. And when they're trying to hold you accountable for that, go yell a slur at a local park. And then they're going, Matt Gaetz is yelling slurs at the local park. And then by then you're elected to your 10th term and it's okay.
Right. It's the drown a kitten scandal strategy, I think, is what you're talking about.
Oh, that's a strat. I thought I've done that before. I didn't know you meant it as like what's that called? A metaphor?
Last question, and you guys just brought this up. Do you think the whole Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky thing would have been different in the age of social media? Like, do you think it would have been a lot worse for him and he would have maybe, gone under if it was social media?
I think social media allows a sociopath like the one at the bottom of the screen to create more chaos. I think so. I think it would be. I think it would have, been easier.
Bradley, you're at the bottom of our screen, so when you said that,
Mr. President,
no, I'm sorry.
I know. I figured out what he meant. I picked that up.
Okay,
you're brilliant.
Thank you. Once again, you see this? It's called bipartisanship. My governing strategy was very simple. There was a show which you didn't get cast on. You probably want it to be. It's called Game of Thrones, and it was a very strong show. And there was a character in it who was sort of a very scheming political character. And he says in the first season, chaos is a ladder. And his strategy was create enough chaos to climb up the chaos and find yourself in a position of leadership. And I said, I'm going to take that and modify it for my presidency and say, Twitter is a ladder. And so I would use Twitter to create a mess that would ruin lots of things, but would help me, which is the whole point of being president, which is to help yourself and your brand. So I think it worked. Well,
Mr. President, you had a lot to say today. Bradley Whitford, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an honor. Again, 3-time Emmy Award winner, joining us in Get Out. Thank you so much. Brad, do you have anything to plug? Anything coming up that you'd like to share with the listeners?
What do I have to plug? Handmaid's Tale, which We come out, I think, on April 19th. I do want to show something, just some stuff. I just realized there's stuff in this room that I think the president would want to see.
What I didn't like about Handmaid's Tale is that you seemed like a good guy in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you started helping.
Getting weak.
You got very weak. You got low energy and very weak, and you started helping the Mad Men lady. And I was like, "What the hell is happening here?"
Well, I just wanted to show you. There is a president I love. There's, you see that?
Oh wow, I do see that.
And these are things you'll never have.
So what you're telling me is you've been kidnapped by the Clintons. You're giving us a clue. Q. We're going to talk to Q right after this episode.
Talk to Q.
Awesome. Bradley, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone out there, please check out the Patreon, patreon.com/mpga, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel, mpgapod.com. Also,
can I ask a question? What is the deal with this Patreon thing? Because I listened to your podcast. Is it like Scientology? Like there's different levels?
Yes, we have different levels of Patreon where it's kind of like Scientology the way we do it. Yes.
The more thetans you give us, you move up. I'm breaking character now. Thank you. Before we go off, thank you very, very much. This, like I said before the show, tremendous honor for us to meet you.
I'm a huge fan of yours. I am fascinated when your ability to actually think, like you're not just imitating somebody, you're thinking like them. I think is really extraordinary. Are you still lawyering?
I am. I have because until there's an infrastructure for my comedy career, 10 years ago, I went full time with comedy and spent all my savings. So I'm not making that same mistake again. So last year was a great year for me, but my goal as a comedian, I'd love to be doing sketch comedy and obviously stand up tour, but until I get that solidified, I want to keep the steady day job coming. But I was going to say, you went to Wesleyan, right?
Yeah.
Williams. Ha.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, no, this was the Patreon is just, bonus stuff. Since the show is free, we figure we have some good hardcore fans. So we basically give them a bunch of bonus episodes, different types of things each month for a few bucks, which is obviously optional. And, most of our people don't do it, and that's fine because,
they're just not true fans. It's
who
fine.
Cares? Yeah.
Are comedy clubs opening?
They just opened this past weekend.
In New York, I know, and they've been open. Florida and Texas has been a free. Just come on in. The COVID doesn't exist. But,
it gives new meaning to "I killed tonight."
Right.
So
yeah, things are starting to open up, and have you been, I shouldn't ask this. I guess it's weird. I just casually ask people if you've been vaccinated, but it's not really my business.
Oh, yeah. I have one shot.
Nice. Yeah, I get my second on Friday. So I planned on starting to go places the end of April. So it turned out my timing was pretty good. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully sometime this year we get back to normal in some capacity, but it just feels like there's so many people who don't want to buy in that there will be enough people stopping us from getting all the way good. I hope not, but it feels
I hope take more time.
I kind of know Andy Slavitt, who's like leading the inoculation thing, and he's like, he has said at certain points that there could be variants. This could be a version of a new normal, which is really terrifying. I've kids in their late teens and early 20s, and it's just heartbreaking what they've, had to miss.
Oh, I can't imagine. I was saying this, like, imagine if 2020 was your high school graduation and 2021 was your freshman year of college.
Yeah.
You literally just missed like two, like milestone, like life milestones, like back to back. That sucks. I'm glad it was just, I missed a year of going into the office and doing some comedy clubs. Like,
right.
I got to spend more time.
That experience can be regained.
Yeah.
You're married, right?
Jay is.
I'm married. Yeah, I'm married. I have a son and then a daughter on the way in May.
Oh, fantastic.
I have a girlfriend who's waiting to eat dinner. That's stuff.
Okay.
But she's eyeballing you over my shoulder. She doesn't want to interfere. But she's seeing. He says hello. And he laughed when I referred to a Bradley Whitford.
Oh, you want to hear a funny Bradley Whitford story? Do you know the name of the rhythm guitarist in Aerosmith?
Oh, when you say it's Brad Dourif, no.
Brad Whitford
Dourif is the actor.
Brad Whitford is his name.
Oh yeah.
And when I was in New York struggling, I got and people would call me all the time when there were phone books and go, can I get tickets to the concert in Hartford? And I got a residual check when I was dead broke, living in New York. My apartment was $325 a month for Wayne's World 2. And it was like $500. And I was like, I even tried to call. They were all in like rehab. It was a horrible time for them. I talked to like Steven Tyler's dad, trying to get mail to them. And he's like, yeah, they're out in the barn practicing. The band's been fun for them, which was just funny. But I cashed this check and I was doing promotions for this movie a couple of years ago. And the reporter goes, do you know you have the same name as the guy in Aerosmith? And I said, yeah, and I feel terrible because I cashed this residual check. I feel bad. I want to pay him back. His mother got in touch with the reporter and said, I want to get my son's money. So I wrote a check for $580 or something for interest. And I wrote a letter saying, look, I'm not proud of this. I want to get this monkey off my back. And then I'm in a store in LA and this kid comes up and goes, are you Brad Whitford? And I go, yeah. And he goes, my dad is Brad. And I was like, oh my God, does he hate my guts? And he's like, no, he loves to see you in movies and stuff. And he's playing, you should come. He was playing at the Staples Center. So I got to go meet them.
That's awesome.
He was really nice. And Cheap Trick was playing. And I got to say to Cheap Trick, the last time I saw you was in Madison East High School gymnasium in 1976 for $1.
Huh, that's crazy.
That's my Brad Whitford.
So take it from us, listeners. Check fraud does pay.
Yes.
Well,
this was awesome.
go feed your girlfriend.
Yes. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Anytime, man.
Check out
Amazing.
Handmaid's Tale, everyone, if you're not already watching. And
I have a movie coming out, a documentary I produced called Not Going Quietly, which just won an audience award at South by Southwest. It's about my dear friend Adi Barkan, the healthcare. Yeah.
Oh wow, amazing.
I'll send you guys a link.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. I'll check that out.
And when is it available?
It's actually going to be on PBS in the fall.
Cool.
All right. So check that
really
out.
good.
Well, we'll retweet it and talk about it. So congrats on that. Thank you.
Thank you. The great Bradley Whitford, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, dear girlfriend.
And JL, give us the last line. JL, give us the last line.
God help us all.